Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and today I'm excited to give you an unboxing and showcase of Arkham Horror Lovecraft Letter. This is a reimagining of the original Lovecraft Letter, which in turn is a reimagining of the game Love Letter. Love Letter is one of my favorite board games I've ever played because it's fast, it's fun, and it focuses all on deduction, and it's a game that is a perfect way to start or end a board game night. Before I get into actually opening this and talking about the game, I want to talk a bit about Love Letter, because I do really like the game, and having an Arkham Horror version of Lovecraft Letter is really sweet. So, in Love Letter, you are trying to get a love letter to a prince or a princess, and to do this, you will have a card in your hand, and then you're going to draw a card. You're going to play one of these cards, and these cards have a variety of effects that are... Basically, you can use them to eliminate other players, or alternatively, secure your position for winning the round. You win the round by being the last player still in play, or alternatively, if the deck is empty and all the cards have been drawn, you win the game by having the highest ranked card in your hand. You do this over the set number of rounds you need to win the game, and whoever wins the game, whoever wins those rounds, gets their love letter to the prince or princess, and then everybody is happy. The games are quick. It's like you can play like a round in like 2 minutes, maybe at the most. And generally the games that we play last 10 to 20 minutes depending on the version. Love Letter is also very good at having a lot of different versions and modes that you can play to find the one that suits your fancy. This one is, as I said, a reimagining of Lovecraft Letter, which was a very fun Cthulhu-inspired version of Love Letter that was a little bit more popcorny than the traditional Love Letter. So there was a little bit of some push your luck elements in this one that don't exist as much in the original. The original Love Letter does have push your luck and bluffing elements, but this one kind of takes it to the next level. So I'll just show you the box here. It's nice and small. As you can see, I'll just hold it up next to my head for scale. I have a relatively normal sized head, so you can tell that this is actually a pretty normal sized box. Backside here, you can see all of our favorites here. Nacho, that looks like Wendy Adams, Silas Mars, Jenny, as well as a few other things here. Inside, there's going to be 27 cards, 6 reference cards, 18 mythos tokens, 1 cloth bag, and 1 rulebook. Notably, I imagine this version plays 6 players. It should say somewhere on the box. Yeah, right here. So 2 to 6 players, and it's 30 to 45 minutes. I think that can really change depending on the numbers of players you have, because the game is very quick. So, opening this up, as you can see, there is a little hole in the front, which is kind of neat. This is the unboxing, and then I'm going to kind of explain the game once we get the cards out of here as well. So in the cloth bag, we have the cards, which we're going to look at in a second. But notably as well, we have the little tiny rulebook. The rulebook for this game is pretty easy because the basic games, the rules are very, very quick to go through, right? So there's going to be a setup, play your turn for the round, the Arkham and Otherworld cards, which I'm going to explain because that is something that is unique to Lovecraft Letter, so we'll get there. There's just like one of these things where, again, this is playing your cards, discarding cards, the difference between them. Sanity checks, which is unique. End of the round is when someone wins. And then we have the end of the game triggers as well. The majority of the rulebook is actually questions about all of the cards, but generally most of the cards explain what they do quite well. Additionally, there's a whole collection of these tokens. These are the sanity tokens? The mythos tokens, because there is a sane version and an insane version, which I'm going to explain why those exist and like what the difference between the two are once we get there. But I think what we're all here to see is what's inside of the cloth bag. Wow. So, reference cards that are double-sided, because each version of the card has a sane effect, and it also has a regular effect. I'm just going to check the focus on this camera. Give me 1 second. That's out of focus. That is looking better. Let's do that. Okay. All right, so you can see the sane version, and then we also have the insane version for the reference card as well. Again, I'm going to explain what this means as we get into this, because the sane and insane version, maybe this is surprising to you, is not actually in the normal version of Love Letter. There is no Otherworld monstrosities you need to deal about in regular Love Letter. However, in Lovecraft Letter and Arkham Horror Lovecraft Letter, this is the case. So I will explain what those mean in a few, but we're just going to look at the cards. So, all cards, I'm going to start with this one, the Investigator's card, otherwise known as Call for Backup. All the cards are broken down as such. They have the name, they have a rank. So as I said earlier, where if the deck runs out, the player with the highest ranked card is going to win. And that is where you can find that. It's on the rank is in the top left. Underneath it, there's these little diamonds. This is how many of that card are in that box. You can also see it on the reference card. So there are 5 Investigator cards, but then there is 1 Tommy Gun, 2 of the Fed, the Boxer, the Urchin, and the Musician, and then 1 of the Sailor, the Entertainer, and the Dilettante. This is important because this is actually where the deduction part of Love Letter comes into play. The idea is that all the cards that everyone plays is going to be face up in everybody's zone, so you can use that to help determine what people have in hand. And this is going to matter for things like mostly the investigators, right? So choose another player and guess a number other than 1. If they have that number in hand, they are out of the round. Everyone is going to be holding 1 card. And what this does is it allows you to determine potentially what that player has. There's nothing more fun in Love Letter than actually just like getting somebody's goat and knowing exactly what they're holding, and then getting them out of the round and bringing you closer to victory. On to the insane cards. There's 1 copy of each of them, and I'm going to explain because 1, they're going to be more powerful, but 2, for reasons when we get to sanity checks, which I'm going to be explaining in a few. So, as I said, there are 5 Investigator cards, and then there are 2 of the Fed, the Boxer, the Urchin, and the Musician, otherwise known as my boy, Jim Culver. I love me some Jim Culver, and I'm so happy to see him in this game. We Jim fans, we keep on winning. Okay, so these are going to be the majority of effects that you're going to be seeing in this game as it goes. So the Fed, you're going to choose another player and secretly look at their hand. So this gives you some information for their hand to make in the future. Maybe you are able to stop them with an Investigator's card. The Boxer, you're going to choose another player and secretly compare hands. Whoever has the lower number or the lower rank is out of the round. So this is, again, another way for you to eliminate your opponents. The Urchin, until your next turn, players cannot choose you for their card effects. So this is basically you put up a force field and you say, you, unfortunately, have to eliminate each other before you can eliminate me. So this is what I mentioned earlier about how there's methods of protecting yourself. The Urchin is a way to do that. And then we got the Musician. Choose any player, including yourself. That player discards their hand and redraws. This can be done both defensively and offensively, which we're going to get to some of these other cards. And as I mentioned, there are 2 of each of these. Again, the numbers of the cards are incredibly important because they help determine the deduction part of the game, which is how you start winning. There are 1 copy of the 6, the 7, and the 8. I'm going to take a look at these 2 in a second, but we're going to start with Jenny Barnes. This is normally the prince or the princess role in other Love Letter games. The flavors of those games is, again, you're trying to get a love letter to the princess, and the 2 cards that you have in your hand, because every turn you're going to have a card in hand, you draw a card, then you need to play one. When you are, basically, the card in your hand is the character holding your love letter. When you draw another card, those 2 characters have met up, and they will then, one of them is going to pass the love letter to the other person. So the flavor is that if you get rid of if your princess no longer holds the love letter, you've essentially lost the round. And that carries over to the 8 in all of this, which is if you play or discard this card, you are out of the round. So you never, if ever, want to play this card because you're going to lose. There are cases that can happen where you are forced to play it. They're very rare, but that is kind of the nature of these games that are a little bit more quick and random. There is that idea where sometimes you're in a situation where you kind of just get the unlucky draw, And because the game is only like a 90-second to 2-minute long round, it's really quick to get to the next one. But there's also times when you can use the princess to your advantage, right? You can use the boxer to essentially just eliminate players. Jenny and Nat Cho apparently work very well together. Additionally, if you're holding the princess, you have to have to avoid effects like the musician that can cause you to discard it. This is where the real flow and structure and fun of the game is, where if you're holding the princess, you're like, okay, I have a ticking time bomb in my hand. How can I maneuver my way to victory? Because that's what this game is really all about, maneuvering it to victory. There's a lot of other tricks you can do. For example, Silas Marsh the Sailor. Choose another player and secretly trade hands with them. And then, so that's a way that you can, if you have the princess and the sailor, you can give the princess to someone else and potentially put all that risk onto them, especially if you're able to drop your own investigator's card next turn. The entertainer Marie Lambeau, if you have any other card with a 5 or higher in hand, you must play this card. In the original Love Letter, this eliminated you from the game. I'm always bummed that they've taken that out, but I will say that this is a very nice version of this card because you can actually bluff this card too. You can discard it, and then maybe next turn someone's going to throw an investigators at you, say a card that is 5, 6, 7, or 8, and you're actually just holding a 2. It's a good way that you are able to trick the other players, which is really fun. The nice thing about Love Letter is if you've played one Love Letter, you have the same structure of all the other Love Letters that you're going to play. But every Love Letter has its own little twist. The first one in this one is that there is a 0 rank card, which is choose any player, including yourself, and place the top 2 cards of the deck in that player's discard zone. Now, this doesn't seem particularly powerful. When you play cards, every card you play is going to go into your discard zone. So you're going to then be able to know, everyone knows the order in which the cards you've played, and also they can use that to help count the cards that are still in play and in the deck and in players' hands, right? But what Tommy Gun does is it gives more information, but it also starts to interact with the Otherworld cards. These cards that can drive you insane. These cards all have 2 effects. They have the Sane effect. Choose another player and secretly can play your hands with them. Whoever has the lower number is out of the round. But they also have an Insane effect. Choose another player who is sane. They are out of the round. This is kind of where, when I say this version of the game is a little bit more popcorny than other Love Letter games, because it has these powerful cards. But there is some risk to the reward that these cards provide. The main thing is that when you have one in play, you are insane. So just before I get into actually talking about the cards, let me just kind of give an example, right? So in the first turn, I played an investigator's card. I guessed that Travis was holding a 3, but Travis said I was wrong. In the second turn, I will play the Necronomicon. This Necronomicon, when the first time I play it, because right now I am sane. I have no insane cards in my play area. But when I play this card, I must trigger the top version because I'm not insane yet. Until my next turn, other players cannot choose you for effects that target players. Notably, it's the exact same as Wendy Adams for the 4. So the same effect is the same thing there. However, now that I have an insane card, an Otherworld card in my play area, I am now insane. So in the future, any one of these cards that I play, I can choose to use the Sane effect or the Insane effect, which is very fun because these card effects are insanely powerful. However, as I mentioned, they come with a little bit of a risk. At the start of your turn, when you are insane, you must reveal the top card of the deck. If it is a sane card, you are fine. If it is an insane card, you are out of the round. All the cards you reveal are also discarded. However, you need to do this for every insane card you have in your play area. So if I had 2 insane card or Otherworld cards, I would need to reveal the top 2 cards of the deck and then discard them. And then if either one of them were insane, I'm out of the round. So, while yes, I can use these powerful effects, it will cause me to potentially be eliminated early. And this also matters because at the end of the round, if you win and you are sane, you get a sane mythos token. If you win and you are insane, you get an insane mythos token. And to win the game, you need 2 sane mythos tokens or 3 insane mythos tokens. You don't need, it's not like you need 5 total. You either need 2 or 3 of those ones. So it's because one of those things where Love Letter has a very fun, natural kind of crab bucket type mode where you are going to try to target the person in first place because they are the highest crab out of the bucket and you need to drag that son of a gun back in, right? So this one has another version way where if someone had 1 sane token, it's either eliminate them or drive them insane, because if they win again, they're only going to get an insane token. And this is a big reason of why Tommy Gun has this effect. The idea is that you can potentially drive someone, whether it be yourself or your opponents, out of play. But what makes Love Letter such a fun game is there's a lot of things that are little hidden synergies that appear. So even, for example, if you're holding the princess, the dilettante, you can use Tommy Gun to run the deck out quicker. Because again, when the deck is out, who is ever holding the highest rank card wins. So that's the insane mechanic. Let me now show you about these cards so you can get an example of the risk, reward, and power that can exist with them. And we're going to kind of just go through these in order, starting with the... well, I mean, we're not going to go in a numerical order. We're going to go in a similar order to what we did last time. So, we have the Cultists. Again, the number, it's a 1-rank card, so this is the same as the Investigator. Top action is the same. However, the bottom action, the insane action, is choose another player. If they have a 1 in hand, they are out of the round. If not, use this card's sane effect on them. So the kind of flavor in this is a nice little thing where the Investigators, you actually can't say 1, so you can't try to get someone out with this. But the Cultist unlocks the potential of that card, which is really, really nice. We'll then go to the Night Gaunt, which is the Otherworld version of the Fed, otherwise known as Roland Banks. So, same action for the Sane, but this one is use this card's Sane effect, then take another turn with no sanity check. So this allows you to take 2 turns in a row. And again, the turns in this game are very simple. You draw a card and then play a card. That's all you're doing in Love Letter. And it's last player standing or highest rank at the end wins. So an extra turn allows you to potentially knock another player out. What's also really good is this combos very well. Say, for example, you then drew a Investigators, or you were holding Investigators in hand. So this allows you to look at a player's hand and then immediately get them out of the round. Again, these insane cards are very powerful, but they have the risks associated with them where you potentially can go crazy. And that's like where some real fun part of this game comes in. The 3rd rank card is the Deep One, or the Boxer Nat Show. Again, top action, the same. Bottom action is choose another player who's insane, they're out of the round. You just get to basically skip the compare card and just eliminate a sane player. You'll be surprised at how quick people have become insane in this game. 1, because of the temptation of going crazy unlocks the power of these cards. But 2, fix my little strings, you're just gonna, like, it's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. We have the Necronomicon, which is the Otherworld version of Wendy Adams. With this one, and same action for the top one. But the bottom action is until the end of the round, you cannot be knocked out of the round by card effects or sanity checks. So what this does is pretty powerful. You are just like in it forever. You're gonna make it until the end of the round, which means that the Necronomicon then turns this into an endurance game, right? So like the other people are gonna try to have to last with you until the end of the round in order to actually beat you, which is a very fun twist on a normal round dynamic. So like that's again what's a real fun part about Lovecraft Letter, is while it is a bit more arcadey or popcorny as I've been saying, it does have a lot of fun stories that come with it. Okay. We're going to do the Stowaway. This one's a little bit interesting because it comes with another card, the Stowaway Eggs. So this is the version of our good friend Jim Culver. So Jim Culver, same action on the top, but the bottom one is choose another player and add their hand to yours. So you take the card from them, and then that player draws the stowaway eggs, then play another card. The stowaway eggs are set aside at the start of the game, so you actually don't interact with them unless this card puts them into play. And if you notice, it's the same for each of them. If you play this card, you're out of the round. So it puts a worthless princess into somebody's hand, which again is a very powerful effect. Before we get to the top one-ofs, I will show you Aurelia here, which is the Tommy gun. Again, same action for the top. But then flip the deck upside down for the rest of the round, and then you may end the round at the start of your next turn. So when you flip around upside, like when you flip the deck upside down, you get so much information about what everyone is drawing. And then at the start of your next turn, you can choose to end the round, which will then cause everyone to compare ranks. So if you're holding like a princess or like the entertainer, so the dilettante, the entertainer, or even the sailor, that is a good way for you to potentially win that round. Very fun effect. We have a gameplay video for this coming up in a few days on the channel too. We saw Aurelia in action, and you can see it. We play a lot of Love Letter on this channel. It is one of my favorite games. It's easily in my top 3. It's like usually my number 1. So I like having a version of this, and maybe I can swindle Travis and Bryn into playing it with me sometimes too. I don't know if they've ever played Love Letter. Randall Tillinghast, who we actually know is going to be coming up in the Drowned City coming up in the near future. It's actually kind of cool to see him here. Is the other version of Silas Marsh, and his insane effect is collect all players' hands and add them to yours, then give each player 1 card from your hand. Again, this is all about information, and like it's a good way for you to divvy out cards. It's kind of like a very powerful version of the Sailor effect, which generally ends up being more of a negative effect in this game, but it can be used positively. And those differences between the two, I think, is a really exciting part, again, of Love Letter. It might sound like I'm like trying to do a big sales pitch here, but I do just legitimately love Love Letter. It's really fun. I've been playing, it's like literally, I bought this, the Kenai Factory Edition years ago just randomly, and I've been in love with it since then. It's very good. The Shuggoth, same effect as Marie Lambeau. If you play this card while you have a 5 or higher in your hand, you win the round. So you'll see these insanity effects can also just like cause people to be eliminated or can just win you the round. But there is, again, that risk reward. And it might seem like these things happen all the time, but they don't. And the big payoff to going insane is, of course, Big Daddy Cthulhu, who has the same effect as the Dilettante, but has an absolutely, pardon the pun, insane effect here. You may use this effect only if you have 2 or more Otherworld cards in your discard zone. So if you have played or discarded 2 Otherworld cards and you have survived and you play Cthulhu, you win the game. You don't win the round, you win the game. This is a great way to just stick it to that player who's like sitting like this, and they're like, I only need 1 more, and then you come in and say, sorry, Cthulhu won this for me, and you gotta go home. Alright, those are all the cards. So the nice thing too is that I'm pretty sure with all of these versions, you can actually also take everything of all the sane cards except for the 0, and you can play just regular Love Letter with it too, which is a nice little thing that all of these have. So let me talk to you about how the game works really nice and quickly. Let me just get rid of the stowaway egg. So each round, you shuffle up the deck of cards, you remove 1 of them without looking at it, just to take away some of the math out of the equation. Then you deal each player a card, and a player goes first. That player draws a card, and then plays 1 of the cards in their hand. So because I played the Fed, I'm going to look at this player's hand. It's the musician, Jim Culver. Then this player goes next. That player plays Jim Culver, the musician, and tries to get revenge on this player and says, hey, I want you to discard the card in your hand. That person discards the card in their hand. Unfortunately for them, they hit my camera, but also unfortunately for them, they discarded Cthulhu, which is if you play or discard this card, you are out of the round. So this player has now been eliminated. This player is then going to go last, the last player. They pick up a card, and then they decide to go crazy by playing the Night Gaunts. But because they're not insane yet, they have to trigger this. So they're going to choose another player and secretly look at their hand. They look at this player, and we see the cultists here. Then it goes back to this player. that player draws a card and is going to then do this one. Choose another player and guess a number other than 1. If they have that number in hand, they're out of the round. They're going to say 3, because fighting with a 2 never seems like a good thing, and the 3 was the boxer, which compares hand, but this player is not holding this, so this player's turn is done. At the start of the turn, this player reveals the top card. Because they were insane, because it was one of these, they are out of the round, and now this person wins the game. And that is a round, it wins that round, and they gain an insane token, and they need 2 more of these to win. And that is a game of Love Letter. Sometimes the rounds are going to be quick. Sometimes you're going to get through the entire deck. Sometimes there's going to be some deduction that comes with it. Sometimes, for example, you see the musician getting the Cthulhu, there's just some, like, vengeance for it. But really, the thing that I love most about Love Letter is that it's incredibly deep. It's one of those things that it sounds like very simple, and even that example that I had here, it turned out pretty quick, right? But the game actually has an insane amount of strategy, and finding and discovering those strategies is very fun. I am a very chunky style of competitive gamer. I like when my games are mechanically simple, but strategically deep. And this game is, in my opinion, very good at that. What I also like is that the rounds are quick, and I said, like, they're a perfect way to begin or end a game night, either as like an appetizer or an aperitif, right? So it's like one of those things where you can use it to, like, fill the space and enjoy it for that's really good. So with all that said and done, if you like Love Letter, if you like Cthulhu, if you like Arkham Horror, I think this game can potentially be worth it for you. I know we are going to be playing it on the channel. We've already, as I said, played all of the other versions. Like, so on our channel we have, what do we have? We have the Connive Factory. We have the 5 to 8 player version. We have Batman Love Letter. We have Princess Love Letter, and I think we have one more too. And I never get sick of them. I love it. I love it so much. Here, let me just. I'm just putting everything back in the box. If you have any questions or anything about the game, please let me know in the comments, because I would like to talk about these games more and answer any questions that people have. As I mentioned as well, we're going to be having a gameplay of this video coming out on the channel in a few days. And you can see myself, Mike, and Nathan giving this game a shot, so you can see it in action from beginning to end. And as again, if you're interested as well, you can also just search Lovecraft Letter on our channel to see it in action if you do not want to wait a few days for it, because we have played the original Lovecraft Letter quite a bit as well. And with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close, and I want to thank you for watching this video. I also want to thank Z-Man Games for sending me this copy of Lovecraft Letter to showcase here for all of you. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. See you all for another one very soon. I also want to do a quick shout out to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. You guys all rock. And I also want to say thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, the GGs.